For the second time in the space of a month, the Town take on the Championship League leaders. This time it's Leeds United who were the opposition for the Hatters on Wednesday night when we make the trip to Elland Road. Alongside me to preview what looks like one of the toughest assignments of the season, it's the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. I think that's just about right, isn't it, Jimbo? Tough as teak, this one.
Yeah, it's a difficult lemon difficult, this one.
It really is, yeah. We'll try and put some sort of positive gloss on it right after this intro.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped a bronze in the Best Football League podcast category at the Football Content Awards last Thursday. This season we are in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I said before the intro, I'm alongside Jimbo and we are previewing Leeds United versus Luton Town. Wednesday evening, 7:45 kickoff. If you haven't got a ticket to the game or you're not going to the game, Sky Sports Plus is the channel to be on to watch this game. And let's hope it's a decent watch, Jimbo. But, you know, they're the league leaders. They're the league leaders for a reason. We'll come on to the game in a minute. Usually we kind of give a little bit of historical background to this one. There isn't really a great deal recent sort of fixtures between the two. We're in the same division 4 seasons ago, it might even have been the COVID season, wasn't it? I think it was the second game back, actually, that we went to Elland Road and Harry Cornick scored that absolute superb goal in a 1-1 draw, I think it was. Really, really good night. Obviously, the flip side of that season was when they came down here and under Bielsa and they scored a late goal. Patrick Bamford, I think it was. But yeah, not too much to go by. But that night that Harry Cornick scored that goal up there, if we can have that again, that'd be nice. Obviously, it won't be Harry Cornick, but it'd still be nice.
Yeah, I was up there for that one in an empty Elland Road because it was the COVID season. And yeah, the noise that would have lifted in that place when he banged that stunner in would have been quite something to behold. But yeah, hopefully it's a bit more rowdy and but a bit more of the same would be okay, wouldn't it?
You give me a point here, I'll just sign the contract and not bother going. I really would. This is tough. They were the pre-season title favourites. 16 games into the championship season, they're top of the table. Looked like they weren't going to be top of the table, but you know they kept on going against Swansea on Sunday and eventually came out on top 4-3. I suppose one hope is that they've used up their goals for a while. It's probably a clutching at straws hope, but, you know, hopefully they haven't got many left.
No, it's very much clutching at straws. They're sort of top of the tree for every decent metric going, aren't they? Goals scored, chances created, I don't know, all of them. So it's a pretty daunting task, really. But yeah, just got to go up there with the same sort of heart and desire and see. You never know. You could... Just because they've scored 4 in the last game doesn't mean they're going to keep banging them in. Yeah, put your bodies on the line and see what happens.
Yeah, very much that. I suppose the one thing that we've got going for us, they have got a few injuries. One of my best mates is a Leeds fan, constantly telling me about their injuries. I mean, no offence, mate, but you don't need to talk to me about injuries. We've got the T-shirt and every T-shirt going with regards to them. But they are missing Ampadu in the middle of the park. He's quite important to them. 1 or 2 others are out as well. So it's kind of a makeshift centre of midfield that they've got, and their wingers are only just coming back from injury as well. So maybe that's something. In a 3-game week, they might not be able to rotate as much as a squad of or as a club the size of Leeds United you would expect them to. And we know from our own issues that players do get tired, particularly they played Sunday right in the amongst that heaviness of the storm that was doing the rounds all across the UK, but particularly in Wales on Sunday. Not as much recovery time if they've not got much change. And, you know, I looked at their bench and there were 1 or 2 good players on it, but certainly not the 6, 7 and 8s that would really change it. Maybe that's just a small glimmer of maybe this time we're the ones that can make some more positive changes than what they can.
Yeah, possibly. As long as players came through unscathed. I did ask Rob that after the game at the weekend, and he said, yeah, he hopes so. So that's positive. We don't yet know the extent of Bell's injury, but if somehow he gets back to full fitness, and then you've got options there, then that's a bonus. I'd take Leeds makeshift at the moment. If they're makeshift and they're top of the league, you'd definitely take that, wouldn't you? So I think what they're doing at the moment speaks to the fact that whatever side they put out, it's going to be really, really difficult. And, I think that you can separate this by distance, but obviously the first game of the season against Burnley was very chastening. And we all expected Burnley to be up there or thereabouts. Like when we played them, we thought that's the team that's going to go up automatically. Well, currently not. And Leeds look like the team. So I don't want it to be anything like that. But given the last 2 away days, it's a nervy one. Yeah,
it is. Leeds threats, I mean, there's plenty of them, isn't there? That's for sure, particularly coming off the back of a 4-3 win. Joel Piroe played up front for them on Sunday. I don't know if that was because it was against his former club and he was more fired up, but he has been playing a lot more through the middle up front. Last season he played as a number 10 a lot for them behind Patrick Bamford, but I think they've worked out he's crap and they're playing Piroe a lot more. Mateo Joseph is his sort of deputy now. I think he's Spain under-21 international. Might be a full international. I'm not sure of that. They blood a lot of youngsters through, don't they? Spain. But Piroe would be a threat. When he played for Swansea against us the last time we were in the Championship, he was always a tough one to handle, wasn't he? His scoring record at Swansea for a team that did more passing than pass the parcel at birthday party. To score that many goals, he's a good player. He'll be right down the middle. Presumably McGuinness will be too. Big test for McGuinness. If he can handle him, goes a long way to getting us somewhere in the game.
Yeah, well, we just need the McGuinness of the weekend to turn up and the McGuinness of the 4 previous home games as well. And
just tell him it's at Kenilworth Road.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and not the one that we saw at Middlesbrough, because it wasn't just McGuinness as well. The whole team just didn't.
So we don't need that defence.
No,
do not need that defence. This lot might not stop at 5.
That is the problem, isn't it? That is the real problem. But Middlesbrough just had their way down the middle of the pitch all too often, and that's going to be a key area, obviously, because we've seen Nakamba come in and do what Nakamba does, which is keep things out, keep things tight. But can he play? Can he play the 4th game after 90 minutes when previously, a month ago we were told, well, maybe a month and a half ago we were told that he couldn't do that because he wasn't, and we now know he wasn't up to speed. But if he can, that sort of gives you more confidence in that area of the pitch, because that was a major problem area before.
It does. I think the problem area that we're going to have in this game, though, is down our left-hand side, because Dan James is likely to be their right winger, or at least he was on Sunday. Obviously, they've got Nonto, the Italian international, who can play down that side as well. But if it's Dan James, I mean, he could give a Whippet a good race. No sort of stereotypical comparison there, actually. But he could do. He's lightning quick, isn't he? And if you think that we've just played to Heath Chong with a mixture of Ted and Mengi mixed in down that left-hand side, you kind of like give Amari'i Bell whatever pills and everything else he's needed to be ready for Wednesday, because it would be much more helpful if we can have an actual left-sided defender down that side to try and contain him as much as he can be contained.
Yeah, it's going to be a major problem. I mean, either side, either flank, highlight him obviously because he's quick, but Reece Burke, we love him, but we don't want to see him really as a right back, which is what we saw. And Ted and Mengi, he's centre half, but he's playing pretty much left back, wasn't he? So that's not ideal. And given the fact that, Bell probably, I would imagine he's not going to be out. We don't know anything at this stage because it happened just before the kickoff at the weekend. So
I did hear a rumour that he was ill, but it wasn't from any sort of sources that I would attribute as factual or anything.
Yeah, I mean, Rob was asked after the game at the weekend, and he just said, "Well, we'll have to see." So that might be the best option. If he is ill, then get some Lemsip in him and get him up there and get him playing. So that if we'll wait and see on that one, but just from the basis of how unlucky you've been with injuries, when have you ever heard of a Luton player recently that's had an injury and then, oh no, it's only like it's not so bad, he'll be back next game? Doesn't happen, does it? So you've got to think that won't be the case, and then it's probably same again, isn't it, defensive wise?
Yeah, Hashi would be an option, wouldn't he? We'll come on to Luton in a moment. By the way, other flu relief is available. It doesn't just have to be Lemsip. Yeah, I mean, down the other side, they're equally as potent. And they'll play with a number 10. The 10 on Sunday at Swansea was Brendan Aronson, the America international, who they had out on loan somewhere in Germany last year. Daniel Farke has brought him back. He seems to be quite popular. He's popped up with some goals this season against Portsmouth. I think you and I watched the highlights of that, and he scored a goal in injury time and missed an even easier one to win the game 4-3.
Yes,
straight after it.
Yeah.
He's going to be key. Generally, though, from what I've seen of Leeds and speaking to my mate and everything else, you can't not have seen much of Leeds, because basically Sky's Leeds United TV at the moment. And they generally seem to target the flanks and then get in behind the defence down that side and then play cutbacks to Aronson or to Pirro or any of the midfielders that managed to get forward, rather than, say, Middlesbrough, who had Finn Aziz right in the centre of the park and he would pull the strings that way. They tend to target the flanks a little bit more. They'll play with two holding midfielders. At Swansea, it was Rothwell and the Japanese international, I think it's Tanaka. And then, their job is basically get the ball, recycle it out wide, and let James and whoever the other winger is try and get in behind. And if they can't get a shot away, they pull the ball back to Pirou. We really have to defend our box really, really well here. We did it on Saturday. We've done it at home for a while now. And to be fair, even at Middlesbrough for the first half an hour, we defended our box well. But we really have to defend it really, really well for as long as those 90 minutes go as possible. And if they do breach us, just put our chests out and go again and just stay in the game for as long as possible, because in that game that we referenced, we weren't really in that game, and then all of a sudden Cornick runs up the other end and pings it in the top corner and you're like, oh my God, we got a point.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to get down the flanks and try and whip balls into the box, then you fancy an aerial battle.
It's more a sort of get in behind and cut back sort of thing, rather than, I'd love them to whip balls in the box, because I don't think, as good as Pirou is, I'd fancy Mengi, Burke, Holmes, McGuinness, combination of whichever. I'd fancy them aerially to get the better of him. But where it sometimes is like when runners run into the midfield from outside it, sometimes they go untracked, don't they? And if they're on the end of that cutback, then we've just got to throw ourselves right in front of it, like we did in injury time on Saturday. There was a couple then, wasn't there, that Casey Palmer was getting in and around, and midfielders and defenders just threw them. I mean, we only attributed that clean sheet largely to the defence, but actually it was a whole team defensive effort, wasn't it? And that's what it will need to be on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, cutbacks and having people unmarked in the box has been a bit of an unfortunate trademark of the away days, hasn't it, really? So that has got to be cut out as well.
I mean, it's more scarier than Freddy Krueger right now, isn't it?
It is. Flying wingers down attacking Luton has been... It's an issue for anyone if somebody's running it with pace, but we haven't. I'd almost prefer them to get to the byline and cut it back because you've got a chance, but it's all too often they've been allowed to cut inside on stronger feet. You think, that happened at Plymouth. Happened.
Name it all. Sunderland's winner.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just that cut that bit out. If they get to the byline, then they've beaten your man, and you cut it back. You've still got men in the box, hopefully, to try and affect that. None of it's a particularly palatable option at the moment because, the away days have just not been fun, really. But do you know what? I mean, he didn't play at the weekend, but I think it probably calls out for Moses with the defensive situation as it is, to give a bit of pace, give a bit of cover, and he has played that so far this season. I mean, unfortunately, he was one of the players that allowed somebody to cut inside. It was Rundle, wasn't it, the other week? And I didn't cut inside and score. But so don't do that, but use your pace to try and nullify the likes of James. I mean, did he play on the left? He did play on the left, didn't he? So Moses, when he was forced to be a wing back,
against West Brom, he's played on the left. Yeah.
So I think that could be an option.
Moses up against James. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, it was on Sunday. It was Manor Solomon, the guy on loan from Leeds, who was their left winger. So they basically had left footer on the left wing, right footer on the right wing. So they're not cutting in onto their strongest feet. So that should, in theory, like you say, eliminate some of that. I mean, of course, they'll still have people that can attack and everything else.
I mean, on the other side, Reece Burke was on the right, and very early on, he got shown a clean pair of heels by Kamara, doesn't he? And Reece Burke is good at a lot of things, but he's not Usain Bolt, is he? So that could happen, and if it's going to be the same again defensive wise, then that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Let's bring it back to Luton then. Some real options for Rob with regards to team news. Obviously we know that Alfie Doubt is out, and obviously we know that, although we haven't mentioned him recently, we know that Rue Walters is out. You've just mentioned Victor Moses there as an option. We hope Amari'i Bell's back as well. We've definitely got Jordan Clark back from suspension. He's back in the mix. We're recording this before Rob's pre-match press conference. We don't know the situation with Shandon Baptiste. We don't know the situation with Tom Krause, and we don't know the situation with Reece Burke. But there was optimism on Saturday, wasn't there, after the game? So hopefully one or two of those are back. Do you know what? If Reece Burke isn't back, but he's okay for Norwich, I'd kind of settle for that, because Hashi came on at right back, and he'll be a lot less jet lagged, or whatever the term would be that kept him out from the start on Saturday. And he's got a bit of pace about him. He can keep a winger quiet, and even when he's beaten, he can get back and sort of dig in, and he's 100%er, isn't he? And he tries and everything. So if the Burke injury is one that keeps him out of Wednesday but not Saturday, I'm kind of okay with that. Don't get me wrong, I'd love Burke in there, best defender that the football club's got.
Yeah.
But if we have to go with a back three of Mengi, McGuinness, Holmes again, it's not that bad.
He's the best centre half they got. He can do a job at right back, but if that was the case, I'd just go for Hashi anyway, because like we did say in the previous podcast, and a couple before that as well, he's really started to come into his own. That's his favoured position. He's not a Japanese international for nothing, is he? So if Burke is an issue, then I'd rather preserve him, get that right for the next one, and have Hashi in there anyway. So yeah, that would be my option.
Yeah. I suppose it also depends if we're playing a back four or a back five. I mean, Rob didn't share who came in for Amari'i Bell, and I wouldn't have expected him to either way after the game on Saturday. But we don't know if he was going to play a back four with Amari'i Bell at left back, and that's why it was all a bit hickledy-pickledy for the first 10 or 15 minutes. We can speculate who we think might have come in, but it's not really going to gain anything. But if Amari'i Bell's there, then you do have the option of playing a back four and sticking two in front of them, and just for the first half at least, just being hard to beat. Don't really worry about getting anything the other end. If we can get a set piece, then happy days. But the main thing is be hard to beat. I mean, it's going to be a raucous crowd, right? Elland Road is one of the great cauldrons of English football at the best of times, let alone under a floodlights on a Wednesday night.
And win the top of the league.
It is going to be a great atmosphere. As a football fan, it's a game I'm really looking forward to. As a Luton fan, it's a game I'm, cautiously nervous about because of the away form that we've mentioned. They're top of the league. They've got the potential to be rampant against anyone in this league, least of all Luton. But from a football fan point of view, they're the kind of games that, similar to last season when you had Liverpool on that Wednesday night and, the other games that were all under the floodlights, it's a game to look forward to. It's a game that you hope that you survive and come out of it unscathed. But they're the kind of games that, as a football fan, you'd much rather go there than sort of Stoke that's half full and dead.
Yeah. No, I mean, Leeds are a Premier League club in all but the current position they're in, aren't they? But it looks like they will be again if they carry on like this. It's just we hope that they don't add to that march when we go up there. But yeah, I know I take your point. I only went up there. We haven't crossed paths too often, have we, as a club? And when I went up there, it was a COVID season. There was no one in there, and I sat a million miles from the only other two people that were up there with me. So the atmosphere wasn't very good at all, as you can imagine. So yeah, it's going to be one of those that, just as from a football purist point of view, that's how you want to see football, isn't it? In that sort of atmosphere, that sort of crowd, and they're very, very vocal, as we have seen before. So when they've come down. So yeah, it's going to be the two things that you described there. You can be excited about that aspect of it, and a bit nervous about how it might pan out against Luton.
Yeah, the less marching on together we get to hear on Wednesday night, the better, because that means that we've got some kind of foothold in the game. Yeah, just be tough to beat. Make it hard. If they beat us, that's fine. Man for man, they're probably a better side. The league table says that. But make them beat us. Don't beat ourselves and anything like that. How many changes do you see on Wednesday? Do you see? Because we're going to make changes, right? Because pretty much full-time at Leeds, click your fingers and we're kicking off at Norwich. So we're not going to be playing the same 11 in both of these games. That would be naive in the extreme. Do you see the changes coming on Wednesday, or do you see the changes more likely to come on Saturday?
I think they would come here. There's obviously players that didn't play or didn't get loads of minutes at the weekend. Jordan Clark was out. Obviously, he's been very favoured by Edwards.
He'd be the replacement for Baptiste if Baptiste's not fit.
I think so, and I fully expect him to come back in because of he's played all that time. And Rob was talking about he hadn't been able to give him a rest. Well, his disciplinary record has given him the rest, doesn't it, for that one game? So you'd imagine that he'd come back in. I'd bring Moses in, as I described. I think it would be same again, but if Burke is a doubt, then Hashi for the defence. Midfield it's the big question for me, which was the same big question as the previous one. Can Marvellous do it? But does he need to? If you sort of, you're not going to say you're not going to give it a good crack. That's not what I'm saying. But if you sort of half prioritise,
what game are you most likely to win?
Yeah, the Norwich one.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So maybe he doesn't, but I want him to play. Realistically, I don't think he will. So then who comes in? So I think it would be Clark for Baptiste, and maybe Walsh, just off the strength of his performance at the weekend, comes in and Nakamba out. I mean, Walsh is not Nakamba, obviously, but that was his best performance for me, Walsh. And if he can replicate that, there's some good options in terms of if you've soaked up some pressure, then he can get you on the attack with an incisive pass somewhere, whether it's a short or long one.
Has Moses come in for a centre-half? We're back to you picking 13 players again, aren't we?
No, I'm not at that stage yet. No, I just forgot I said Moses. No. Well, I'm saying that we're going to play with a back four. Same again, back four, but with Hashi. So maybe he's cover. Get him in the midfield.
So that'd be instead of Kraus, or the Kraus and Chong would be the other ones, wouldn't they?
I think it'd probably be, well, Kraus is a doubt, isn't he? So yeah,
so instead of Kraus,
probably be Kraus.
So you'd have if I can get it out, midfield three of Walsh, Clark, and Chong.
No, because Moses has got to be in there, hasn't he?
And Moses, sorry, yeah, those four. So you'd have Clark sort of in the Baptiste role that was on a bit more out on the right hand side on Saturday. You'd have.
But I don't think that will happen. I just think that would be the personnel change, the player that the Clark will come in for. But he clearly will play central midfield, won't he?
Got a lot of selection problems, hasn't he?
Well, it's quite a good one to have, isn't it? But it'll be Clark and Walsh in the centre. Moses on the left. He played left last time, didn't he? Chov on the other side. There you go.
And then a front two. Elijah didn't really look himself on Saturday. Wasn't really a game for him anyway because Hull had so much of the ball and we couldn't press them because they never stood still long enough to be pressed, did they? I suspect Leeds are going to be quite similar, actually. You're probably not going to press them very well either. And in fact, they are the team that win the ball in the final third the most in the Championship. So none of this. So we're basically going to be getting the ball out there, and so you want strikers that are going to hold the ball up, which would definitely be Morris.
Mm-hmm.
So funny on Saturday, wasn't it, when Morris finally fouled and got a free kick and then celebrated that he'd finally got that free kick that he could have had 15, 20 minutes earlier. So he'll definitely be one. I don't think this is the game to drop Morris, and he's just had a 2-week break, and of course he's not going to want to be dropped on Saturday either. Brown is the other one, though. He does seem to be holding it up a bit better than Eli at the moment, doesn't he? I know Eli's pressing and everything, but I think the pressing would be more Saturday than Wednesday. Just feels like a Morris and Brown type of evening.
Yeah, I've been impressed with what Brown's done as a cameo coming off the bench. He's got to now do that from the start, I think. But that would be my option, just to freshen it up. There's no reason not to now that you've got the options, whereas before we hadn't. But also, if you're looking at that 3-game week and realistically, where are you going to get your points? Would it be Norwich? I think so. I mean, that's just us as fans. That is not the way that they're going to look at it, of course. But that's just, that's 30 odd years of football watching, isn't it? So for me, I think that's a good option to get Jacob Brown in.
Yeah, I think so too. I would give Eli a rest in this game. I really do think that Norwich on Saturday, and we'll cover this after the Leeds game, but I really think that you can get at that Norwich defence pressing-wise. There's a couple of slower individuals in it, whereas Leeds are more street-wise, aren't they, in defence? Their central defence is going to have probably Strike and Joe Rodon, the Wales international. They're pretty accomplished on the ball. They're unlikely to lose it in dangerous areas. So yeah, Brown, and also Brown's got that kind of defensive sort of attributes which we're going to need. We're going to need all hands to the deck here, that's for sure. Where can we kind of penetrate this Leeds side? Well, I'll tell you the first area where we can have some joy in this game, Jimbo, and that is very much stick some crosses and stick some long-range shots in at this one, because Meslier in goal is a basket case waiting to happen. I don't know if you saw Sunderland's equaliser against them the other week that was on the television, where the ball did absolutely nothing and he went down the Jubilee line and the ball travelled down the Piccadilly line, and it was just... But that is not the first rodeo of making a mess of things from Meslier. So lots of crosses if we can get them forward. Lots of, if we get a pot shot from 20, 25 yards, have a go. You just will not know against this guy. He's capable of any sort of issues at any moment. So that's one thing we can do. Give ourselves a good chance by just getting as much in on him as possible. He does not strike me as a confident goalkeeper, and I'm not overly convinced they're confident with him.
Yeah, that's a thing to get to grips with in itself, because I don't recall too many long-range shots from Luton. The tactic, quite obviously, just by the Doughty as leading chance creator, was get the ball down the flanks and get it in the box. That wasn't apparent at the weekend. There wasn't hardly any chances created whatsoever. But you did get into those areas where you could have a shot. Unfortunately, most of the time it was marvellous the camera was getting there, and even though the crowd desperately wanted him to do it, that was not happening. That
might be another reason to leave him out. Man's not going to shoot, so let's put someone in there who might.
Yeah, but I'm having Liam Walsh in there, and I think that he definitely would have a shot. So yeah, that I hadn't thought of that as the reason as to why I thought Liam Walsh should come in, but I think it strengthens the argument.
A few long range shots at Middlesbrough, to be fair, in amongst the few bright moments that we had in that game. I mean, Woodrow had a stinger that the keeper pushed out. Clark's goal was from the edge of the box, wasn't it? In and around the edge of the box. And we had that Walsh one that he dragged wide of goal when that was at 0-0, and also the one that Shandon decided to try and take the man on when Eli had laid it back to him, when that could have been a shot from the edge of the box. So we can get into positions even when we're nowhere near at the races. We can still get, and we usually score, to be fair to these boys. But yeah, I just want us to test this keeper because I'm not convinced by him. I've never been convinced by him. As I say, I watch a lot of Leeds because one of my best mates is a Leeds fan, and I love nothing more than winding him up because their goalkeeper's rubbish, particularly as we've got a really reliable one right now as well, which often in that dynamic between the two of us, it's been the other way around. Ours has been unreliable and they've had a brick wall in goal. So I really would like that. The other area where we can kind of get at them is down their right-hand side. They had Sam Byram at left back, but all of the Swansea goals came down that side on Sunday. Junior Firpo has been suspended, I think. I'm not overly sure what's happening with his ban because it was picked up before the international break. I can't remember if he's back or if he's not back. But if he's not, then whoever's down the right-hand side, whether it's Hashi, whether it's Moses, whether it's Burke, whether it's, a midfielder drifting out in that direction, we should be able to get some joy down that side. So that's another area to target, I think.
Yeah, and, there's not going to be a lot to go on there. So you've got to be quite clinical with any of the chances you have got. And you're right, we've scored even when how bad that Middlesbrough performance was, it was still a goal in it. It probably could have been one or two others, and who knows if the Walsh one had gone in, what might have happened then. But that's by the by, it didn't happen. But if you can get in those positions, then whoever's getting on the end of them has to be quite clinical. And at the moment, I think that Brown looks quite likely to score when he gets an opportunity, and he's looking quite bright. And
Chong would love to score, wouldn't he, as an ex-Man United player? There's a rivalry between Man United and Leeds.
There is, but it's a fan thing. I don't think Chong would know about that, would you? They've barely been in the same division for such a long time.
You said that, not me.
That's just facts, isn't it? I mean, how old is Chong? 22?
Yeah,
23?
Good point.
Leeds have been in the Premier League for like 2 seasons of his life.
To be fair, though, they have fan rivalries with just about every club in the Football League, don't they? So everyone would be up for that. Yeah, you're right. Look, chances are going to be at a premium here. They just are. It's not us being negative, it's us being realistic. Seen plenty of games at Elland Road this season. To be fair, right at the start of the season, Portsmouth did score 3 there. So if you catch their defence on a going night, you can get at it. Swansea have just scored 3. They're not exactly free scoring, Swansea. So you can get at it, but it's taking the risks to get at it, minus leaving yourself exposed at the other end. And maybe this isn't a game for us to do that. Maybe the position that we're in on our travels at the moment, we're not in the position where Portsmouth were. First game of the season, absolutely nothing to lose, on a high, just won the championship, could go there with, gay abandon and just throw the kitchen sink at it, and what would be will be. I kind of, particularly in light of what our last away game was, I kind of think that's not really an approach we can take. As much as I'd love us to take that approach, I would understand if we're a lot more pragmatic and try and be hard to break down. And, like that, I know it wasn't under Rob Edwards, but like that Norwich win in the promotion winning season where we defended deep. We had a couple of defensive midfielders or defenders in midfield. Alfie Doughty was one of them. Just be really hard for them to break down, offer no space in behind for the wingers to try and get behind. Just really try and snuff that out. And then if we can get a ball somewhere near Carlton for him to go on a 20-yard run and put a finish in like he did that night, then that would be fantastic. But 0-0 draw is an absolutely fine result here.
I'll take that all day long, 0-0. I think it's going to be difficult to stop them scoring.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it is. But then on the flip side, Luton, as bad as the performances were, scored at Middlesbrough, went 2-0 up against Coventry, who, let's be honest, them doing that, what they did against Sheffield United, they didn't win this time, but they came from 2 behind to get a 2-2, shows that Coventry are pretty good, and that maybe puts a different sheen on that result, but probably not. But it gives you some added context in hindsight, doesn't it?
Ran around a lot, according to Chris Wilder. Pity they ran around a lot when the previous manager was there. That bloke really doesn't know what he's talking about. Look, tough night at the office. As I say, it's not us being unsupportive or anything. That's just us being realistic. We're going to the league leaders on a high, and us, struggling for a little bit of confidence on our travels. But that's not to say that we haven't pointed out areas where we can get at them. But, the other end is where it is. This is a real bodies on the line, everything you can to protect your goal, and just hope you come away as largely unscathed as you possibly can. And, if you can scrape an ugly result, and it probably would be an ugly result, we're not going to go there and play them in a game of football and win, are we?
I think it has to be ugly. As much as people have said about the whole game, saying it wasn't the prettiest watch, then I'd kill for not the prettiest watch for this one, because I think that would frustrate Leeds really significantly.
And that's the thing, isn't it? If we are in the game after 65 minutes and it's a 0-0 or whatever, and the crowd does start to get at them, because the Leeds fans must be looking at Luton, 16th in the table, fairly comfortable home win, we're flying, etc., etc. If we can get them...
For them, they're thinking this is a home banker, aren't they?
Yeah, if we can get them at it, then who knows? This is also a Leeds side that they've lost 1-0 at home to Burnley, and Burnley weren't particularly great in that game. I'm speaking to the Burnley lads at the Content Awards the other night. I swear to God, Burnley have only looked good in one game this season, and let me just think of which one. Sod's law. Us. If they can go there and frustrate them and nick a goal, you just don't know. That first goal is important, isn't it? It is important because it'll give us something to hold on to if we get it. If they get it, you just hope it's not Middlesbrough and second half Coventry levels. You just hope that we can dust ourselves down. Okay, this is still a tough assignment, but let's just stay in the game. And you never know. Tough evening, but one that I'm looking forward to, albeit because, do you know what? If we do go there and win, what a bloody result it'll be. It'll be one of the best results under Rob's tenure, and we've had some really, really good ones. It might actually go on as being the best. It probably wouldn't usurp Brighton and Sunderland playoff semi-finals for the magnitude and the enjoyment and everything they gave. But when you put the context and the circumstances around it, it would be right up there, wouldn't it?
Undoubtedly, if you can go and, they're league leaders, they're a massive club, but also...
They're 11 and we're 11.
If you think about the context of the season and where the expectations level were for Luton, some of that was put down to, I've read many a piece by many journalists that have said some of that is down to Luton used to be the underdogs all the time, and now they're expected to win. But that's not the case in this game. Leeds are firm favourites for this game. So it's a bit of a retro game for Luton in the sense that all the pressure's off. You can go up there and try and be nasty, horrible, kick them, don't let them play, keep it tight. We know you've got the players that can nick a goal, and that can happen. 1-0 away sounds great, but I mean, I snapped your hand off a 0-0 just a minute ago. So
I don't even want to know I don't even want to know what you're doing to my body if I'm offering you a 1-0 win. That's for sure. That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. We've tried to be as positive as we can. Look, this is tough. It's just a realism. That's just where we're at right now. All that's left, though, before we leave you is the score predictions. I went first last time, Jimbo. Levelled it up. You can go first. Leeds v Luton. How does it finish?
Don't hate me, everyone, but I think that they're going to lose, unfortunately. So,
you unsupportive bugger.
I'm going to go for a 2-1 to Leeds.
2-1 to Leeds for Jimbo. I can't possibly be seen as being unsupportive, can I? Do you know what? I'll take that 0-0. I'll take it because, and there's a two-way street here, right? If I go all the way to Leeds on a Wednesday night, stink the gaff out for a 0-0, I'll have done quite a bit of dough. Probably will be quite bored as well on a freezing cold night, but I'll come back with my 3 points. So that would do me 0-0. Often on long trips, actually, I often back no goal scorer so that if that situation happens, at least I can coin a few quid in. But Mark McGuinness is in scoring form now, and he's the biggest price so far this season on Wednesday night. So McGuinness.
You're just saying that after McGuinness has put some wedge in your pocket at the weekend.
You're damn right. Damn right. One more would be lovely, though. Biggest price of the season. 0-0 for me. Ignore this bloke. 2-1.
It's a pragmatic one, and I'm thinking about my score prediction league because he's gone level with me, and we can't have that, can you? Who do you want to win that? Come on. This one.
They want me to win it because I'm giving Luton a point, mate. 2-1 for Jimbo. Not a great deal of time to get your score predictions in for this one, I'm afraid. Obviously, the schedule is how the schedule is. You still got more time for this one than you're going to have for the Norwich one, unfortunately. But do get those score predictions in. Let's know your team. How many changes would you like to see made? Who would you like to see come in? Who wouldn't you like to see come in? That left-hand side in particular is the area of attention in particular, isn't it? Who are we best to utilise to quash the threats of Dan James as much as we possibly can? Let us know in the YouTube comments. We'll read them all. We'll try and react to them all and everything else. So do keep your comments coming in. Do please keep on subscribing. It's really important for us that we get as many subscribers as we can. It will just give us a bigger and better reach and can make this podcast so much better for all you guys. But more importantly, it means that you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out at the moment. And it is coming thick and fast. As we say, we're in the middle of a 3-game week. Just to reiterate, these thoughts are just mine and James's thoughts, just two Luton fans, Luton lads having a bit of banter. Anything that you've heard over the last 45 minutes or so is not affiliated to the trust. It's just us two. In particular, just wanted to reiterate that once again, in case anyone missed the whole review podcast where we said that. That is it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks very much to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio as always, guys, particularly for these midweek previews. Really appreciate it, chaps. To Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for the designs that you see on set. Until next time, which will be a review of what could be a brilliant, hopefully okay, and hopefully not very, very bad night for Luton Town. From a Jimbo and myself, come on, you Hads. If you've got a ticket, be loud and proud for this one. The boys really, really need you. But between us all, we can get this done. Come on, Town. We can do this.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.